Well, thanks to everyone who's joining us today for the Chapter Leader Success Series on transitions. Crew Network, we always want to thank our partners. The Chapter Leadership Circle is actually the sponsor of the Chapter Leader Success Series. So this is just a series of webinars that we offer to help train our leaders and help you to be more successful. So we appreciate the support of the chapters who are part of that group. All right, and today we're going to be sharing tips to make a more seamless transition from year to year, from board to board, leaders of different committees. We just want to provide some tips. The Crew Network staff has a wealth of knowledge and information. We thought, well, we want an opportunity to share what we know with you. So that's why we're doing this. I want it to be a very casual learning experience. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask your questions, or put them in the chat if you don't feel comfortable unmuting yourself. And Chris will help me keep an eye on those. So I want to introduce myself first. I am Jenny Weisenbach. I'm the Director of Chapter Services at Crew Network. And with me today, I'm going to stop sharing really quick and see if we have some Crew Network staff people. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the chapter and member services team, so you can all see their faces. If you don't mind unmuting yourself and just saying hi, that would help them to actually be able to see you. Chris Blair, she is our manager of chapter administration. Chris, can you say hi?
Hello.
And then we have several chapter service coordinators. We've got Linda Newtell.
Hello.
Hey, Linda. Carolyn Leary.
Hi.
Lindsay Schwartzengruber.
Hello.
Okay, let's see. Is Amber sitting up on the call? Amber might not have popped on yet. Laura Van Alstine.
Hello.
Hi, Laura. And then we also have Krista Levitt, who is our membership coordinator on the call today.
Hello.
Okay. Did I miss anyone? If I did, go ahead and unmute yourself and speak up. Okay, so this is the team of people at Crew Network who our job is to help you as chapter leaders, as committee members, with membership. Our job is to help you, and please feel free to call on us for assistance. So now I will go back and share my slides again. Okay, so here's the basic format for today's program. I've included links in the PowerPoint, which seems kind of silly, but later on it will be made into a PDF and posted on CrewBiz. So you'll be able to actually access those hyperlinks. And on the next slide, I'll actually show screenshots for where to access the resources that I mentioned here. There is absolutely no way I can show you all the resources the Crew Network has available to chapter leaders. And when I say chapter leaders, I am referring to board members, but also committee members, committee leaders. All of you are chapter leaders. You are the ones that are performing the duties and tasks to keep your chapter running. So there's a lot of resources available for you as chapter leaders. So I'll show you how to get to navigate in CrewBiz in the Resource Center, and I'll also show you how to navigate on the website and in chapter management. As you see, that's the demo at the very end. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about some dates and deadlines, and then we're going to go through some tasks per committee, kind of things that you should be thinking of, things that the outgoing leaders should be working with the incoming leaders to make sure they're covered. And then we'll also talk a bit about chapter management. Okay. If you do have questions at any time throughout, go ahead and put them in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask. Again, I want this to be a casual conversation. This first slide, it's a screenshot to show the location of a couple of those resources that were mentioned on the first, on the previous slide. The two that I've got arrows to are labeled for delegates. I think there's a delegate calendar and checklist, and then there's an annual checklist for chapter leaders. Even if you're not a delegate, feel free to go ahead and open those up, take a look at them. The information tells you what needs to get done. So it's good for committee chairs, especially, to skim over all of the bullets in those handouts to make sure that all your tasks are covered. Okay, and then we have also created a landing page in CrewBiz to view all of the available playbooks from one page. Some of these haven't been updated in the last decade, so we're in the process of updating those. But from the top navigation of CrewBiz, which you can find from the Crew Network website or any of your chapter websites, under resources, there is a playbooks dropdown, which will take you to a landing page that shows all of those playbooks. Okay, so let's jump in and talk about some of the dates and deadlines. These are just a couple of dates and information that all chapter leaders should know. November through February, all memberships expire on December 31st. Anyone who is involved in membership recruitment and communication with new members needs to be aware of this membership cycle. All memberships expire on December 31st. However, there is a grace period through mid-February so that people who want to pay for their membership benefits during the same calendar year that the benefits take place, you can do that right now. So benefits won't be terminated until the middle of February. So everyone still has the benefits right now, but they will end if payment isn't received. In 2021, we are offering an extension of the grace period for people who have been affected by the pandemic. So I'll show you later where the renewal assistance information can be found. My second bullet point here, we want to ensure chapter leaders have renewed before the grace period ends. So many chapter leaders are so busy running the chapter that, you know, you're reminding everyone to renew, but sometimes we get to February 15th and we're like, oh, the membership chair hasn't renewed her membership. So make sure that you're talking about it at committee meetings and encouraging your fellow leaders to go ahead and make their dues payment. You'll also want to encourage your members to update demographics and make a donation with their renewal. That'll help your chapter achieve the trifecta sooner. Then I'm skipping down through until June and July because I want to talk about just kind of the high level things that we need to focus on. There are events happening during that time. There's sponsorship happening, and we'll talk about all that in the separate committee sections. But in June and July, it is important to begin recruiting for leadership and working on nominating for the next year's leaders. I know that seems early, but that is the ideal time to start that. We want to encourage membership drives. June is a great time to have membership drives because mid-year dues discounts begin on July 1st for new members. In August, this is when your board should start talking about the budget for the next year. Are there dues increases that you need to be considering? Sponsorship packages, do those need to be tweaked? What do you have in mind for the coming year as far as goals, and what finances do you need to actually reach those? So there are some budgetary things that need to start being discussed. And then in August, we'll also send information about membership dues, about the renewal cycle for the coming year. Again, that's really early, but it takes time to prepare. We'll also start talking to you about the leaders. Hopefully you've already started recruiting and working on nominating back in June and July. But in August, you probably want to be ready to submit your slate for the next year's leadership to the membership for voting. And then in September, this just continues on. There's membership renewal deadlines. If you want Crew Network to assist with the invoicing and payment processing of your membership renewals for the coming year, you'll need to finalize those votes for the incoming leadership. You'll want to do a roster review to ensure eligibility of members and all the other details involved in a roster review. And Krista and I actually had a great webinar last month where we talked about membership tasks, membership training, and then we also had one earlier in the fall where we talked specifically about the membership renewal process. So give us a call or watch those webinars to get more about what's involved in those roster reviews and just all those preparations. And then we also encourage membership drives in September because new members can join for the coming year as early as October 1. So September is a great time to have another membership drive. And then beginning in October, it's mostly prep for the coming year. So updating membership application forms, sponsorship benefits, pledge forms, planning for the first quarter events. One thing that a lot of chapters have started doing, and I think it's extremely helpful, is to have the outgoing leaders plan the first quarter events so that when incoming leaders start on January 1, they already have a 3-month cushion of events that are already planned and they're not scrambling, especially right after the holidays and as they're learning their new responsibilities. Go ahead and have the outgoing people plan that first quarter of the year as far as the programming. November, make sure you have some transition meetings, have some training meetings between committee leaders, between board members, people who are leaving their responsibilities. Make sure they have fully trained their replacements. Go over documentation together. Encourage the incoming people to shadow the ones that are departing at events. Hopefully we're going to have events again this year. But that way they can know their responsibilities at the events and what's expected of them as a board member or as the membership chair. There are different responsibilities for each person. And another reminder I included on this slide, the small staff at Crew Network, we're the same people who put on Crew Network summits and convention. So our responses may be a little delayed during those events, but I also want to clear up a common misconception. Crew Network's events are not just for chapters, boards, and chapter leaders. Crew Network's leadership summits, our convention, all of our webinars, they're open to all members. And we've quoted recently a great statistic about the percentage of people, especially professional women, who do professional development training, and they are much more likely to get promotions and raises and that sort of thing. So invest in yourself. These are very reasonably priced opportunities for training. So now I'm going to jump into the specific things that each group of leaders might want to consider and think about. We'll start with the board. I showed 2 different resources. There was the operations playbook and the annual chapter leaders checklist. Those are both great resources to look at, and these are both, again, hyperlinked, so you'll be able to access them from the slides. And I'll show you where they are. They're in CrewBiz resources. The operations playbook talks about record keeping, the governance documents, finance information, audits, taxes, all that. So take a peek at the operations playbook. Again, we want board members and delegates and foundation champions communicated to Crew Network by the end of, or by early October. And this just kind of talks through the process. I think it's very important to talk about the reason for using a nominating committee and a slate versus just a ballot where you select the people that you want to have serving on a board. The reason this is important is because a nominating committee can convene as a group and look at the outgoing leaders, the leaders that are still remaining, and then the pool of eligible candidates, and identify what type of knowledge, what type of experience, what type of connections do we need to make this board equipped to lead our chapter for the next year, for the coming year. So it's more that it's not just a popularity contest. It's not just rating people. It's important to have that kind of high level view of who can lead the organization well. I have a bullet here for review the contracted service agreement. Most chapters have one of these agreements. And this outlines what Crew Network is expecting to help your chapter with. This is not a contract. We can change, we can make adjustments to this throughout the year. But this is a way for us to communicate to you what we are expecting to do for your chapter so that we are all on the same page from the get-go. There are links to detailed processes and best practices provided within those contracted service agreements. So read those. If you aren't sure what I'm talking about, ask your board of directors or reach out to me afterwards and I can provide you with more information. We also really encourage you, and this is going to come up probably on every single committee slide that I have, we want committees, tasks and charges to be clearly defined and make sure the workflows are in place to accomplish all of the tasks that are assigned to your committee. So you'll see that come up over and over again. One thing I definitely want to point out is the team that I introduced you to when we started, Crew Network's Chapter and Member Services team. We have, and I did the math before this call, but we have a combined 60 years of knowledge and experience working with chapters. And every single person on the team has worked with multiple chapters. So we have a variety of different experiences, and we also have each other to pull on. And if you have questions about how to do something, reach out, ask us, see if we have any input, any ideas. Not every idea is going to work for every chapter. The knowledge and help you. We don't want you to have to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so now we're going to go through a couple different committees. At the top of the slides, there will be just some general bullets. And then at the bottom of the slides, there are some bullets that are directed more to chapters who use Crew Network's contracted services. So I'm just telling you how the slides are kind of broken up. For communications and marketing, we have a webinar on chapter best practices for marketing. We also have a playbook. We actually have a couple playbooks if you look into the marketing and the social media playbooks. So make sure you look at the resources that are available. Again, review your processes, review the workflows to make sure that you've got seamless communication processes. Crew Network has several forms that we're happy to share if you want an idea of how to establish a process or methods of collecting data that might be needed to, about an event so that, you can set up the web page and have all the marketing match. We have some forms that we are happy to share. I encourage you all to use consistent branding from email to email. The example I always like to use is we want your chapter's emails to be as recognizable as the arches are for McDonald's. You know, your logo, the way that you message things should be very consistent and very recognizable. And one last bullet there, the rights for images. Make sure if you are posting images on your website or in social media or in emails, make sure that you have permission to use those images. Build up a library of images from your chapter's events. Again, once we start having those again, you can assign a committee member to take pictures. You can hire a photographer. Most chapters, commerce or convention visitors bureaus have imagery that is free for use if you want to show some pictures of your city. Just make sure that you have the rights to use those images. Okay, now to talk about the contracted services side. I'm not going to read all the bullets, but I do want to point out that if Crew Network is sending blast emails for your chapter, we have to send all blast emails for your chapter. And this is not because we don't like to share. It is because we want to help make sure that you are in compliance with email marketing regulations, both in the US. The UK has a very intense policies. Canada has different policies. The US is actually, I haven't heard much about it recently, but they were talking about enacting some more rigid policies on email marketing. So we're just trying to make sure that we maintain compliance. Essentially, if a person opts out from receiving emails from your chapter, that process is integrated into the back end of our database so that no more emails will go to that individual member for your chapter. If you were to start sending messages out locally, you would not know that that person had requested to have opted out of receiving your emails. So we take care of that process. And that does not mean that chapter presidents can't shoot out a message to the committee members or send out other emails. I'm just talking about your blast emails, your marketing emails to the entire membership and potential members. And also, when we're talking about stock images, Crew Network has a gallery of stock images that Crew Network staff who are contracted to do services for your chapter, we can put those on your website. We can put those in emails. We cannot give you the raw image files to be used locally in social media posts, or if you do your own emails, we can't submit those image files to you. But Crew Network staff can use them if we are providing that service to your chapter. Most of our images are purchased from Adobe, and they have very reasonable rates. So if you find something that you really want to use on your social media, you're welcome to go search for it, or we can help you search for it and find that image. We can get our marketing department to share with us exactly where they got it from. Okay, and here are a few annual tasks for the chapters that have a website built on Crew Network's integrated platform. Again, I'm not going to read each bullet, but I do want to point out general website audit. This is a great task for incoming leaders to do to familiarize themselves with the website, where different information about your chapter lives on your website so that they can help other members. And then I also want to reiterate that committee updates are done by chapter leaders from chapter management. And these updates are best done in the fall. Many of you may be realizing that right now because non-renewed members are not visible to put on the different committees right now because they're not, we didn't want to have people who don't renew listed on your committee roster. So there is an end date. As soon as they renew, they will show up and they'll be available. But just something to think about doing in the fall is updating those committee rosters. Okay, so let's talk about the membership committee. Again, Krista and I have done a couple different webinars. Sorry, I just noticed the chat. So we do have some resources that are, some trainings that are available out there. And I'll show you where those are. The membership committee, each year you need to make sure that the application form is updated. We recommend that dues rates be shown on the website versus the application form. And the reason this is, we want potential members to have all of the information they need to make a decision about applying when they're on your website, when they're looking at, you know, the requirements and the eligibility before they click on the application form. So by the time they click on the form, they should have all the information. The form should just be a simple process to, you know, for them to apply. Career Network does offer a standard online application form that we are willing to customize for any chapter. If you are interested in using an online application form, it's very, very cost effective. It takes about 2 hours for us to set up. And then it's pretty much, it runs itself. So I'll share a bit more about that next. And then again, I'll talk about reviewing the workflow, reviewing the processes. I encourage the beginning of every year, or as you're talking about the transition, have a committee meeting where you talk from a potential member and you walk through all the processes, every step that has to take place from them applying for membership, you know, who gets the application, who collects all the applications, who reviews them, who vets them, who approves them, who submits the approved applications to Career Network and identifies the qualified field of commercial real estate and category, and then continue on through that. Who is in charge of onboarding the members? Who is reaching out to them to make sure that they are welcomed into the chapter and getting involved? So that's a common theme that you'll see. I'll talk about reviewing that workflow process. And then as far as the Career Network contracted services, if you are using the online application form that we offer, we do have to update the contacts who should be notified about the submission. So that's something that you'll need to tell us if you want it changed every year. And we also encourage you to include fine print on all the applications. Career Network members, you are all professionals. You are all the cream of the crop. We expect crew members to be exemplary professionals. We want to make sure that applicants are aware, and we don't want to be deceitful in any way, shape, or form. So we want to make sure that all of the information is provided to applicants, our expectations, the terms, all of that is lined out for them. We have these are just some of the items in that we call the fine print, but we have an online application form, like I said, and you can click on that link and see the full list of the fine print. I think it's also included perhaps in one of the other webinars that we've done. Now for the programs and events committees. We encourage you to set dates for programs and speakers and venues and all that at least 2 months in advance to give proper time for members and non-members to register. Again, try to encourage the outgoing planners to plan the first quarter events before they transition out. This makes it easier on everyone. Make sure there are some events that are only available to members. You want to make sure that there is significant value in membership so that people don't just say, well, I can still come to all the events, I just pay a little bit more. You want to make sure that there is real value in the membership. Non-members shouldn't be able to attend everything. And then don't forget to provide some context about the events. Make sure you let people know why they want to come. So if you say, join us for our monthly program, that sounds a lot less sexy than if you were marketing like a mayoral panel or an in-depth preview of new developments from our city planners. Tell people why they should want to come to your event. Make sure that that piece is provided so they know what they're going to get out of the event. And then again, review the workflow, review your policies with registration, cancellation, refunds, photo disclaimer. Crew Miami actually has a great page on their website that outlines the event policies. So you might check that out. I think I actually, yeah, I did put it. It's on Crew Miami's website under events. There's an event policies button. And then with Crew Network's administrative services, Crew automatically includes like photo disclaimer language and language about cancellations and refunds in the registration confirmation emails. So that is taken care of for chapters that are using Crew Network services for events. But you'll want to review those policies. And if you want to go to a model similar to Crew Miami, let your chapter administrator know and we'll be happy to help with that. Okay. The sponsorship committee, many of these bullets should be starting to look familiar. Again, update your forms, your sponsorship pledge forms. We have samples if you want to see a couple different examples of sponsorship pledge forms. We really encourage the use of pledge forms. If a company is committing to sponsor your chapter, have them put it in writing so that that they know the benefits that they're going to be receiving. Who you should be contacting to work out those benefit details. We have some very simple and some very elaborate pledge forms, so feel free to reach out to us. The last bullet in the top part here, I had some questions about that last time. Membership dues should not be included as a benefit of sponsorship. The reason we say that, or the reason I say it's not recommended, is because membership stays with the member throughout their career journey. It doesn't belong to the company. So companies, a company may say, I've donated, I've given $5,000 to your chapter. Susie left, so I want the membership to be used by Denise. It doesn't work that way because Susie was approved based on her experience, her knowledge, her specific subsets. She was approved as a member and we want to support her through her career journey, even though she has left that specific company. So if you do include membership benefits, make sure the requirements are clearly communicated and that the membership stays with the member. That is clearly communicated to the company. And then the bottom bullet under the contracted administrative services, this is something that is very specific to each chapter. You'll want to determine if benefits or sponsorship begin upon receipt of their pledge or when payment is received. There are some chapters that routinely have issues collecting from different companies. For those chapters, I would recommend that you make sure that payment is received before you start delivering benefits. It also is a way to encourage more prompt payment if you withhold the benefits until the payment is received. So that's a decision that's up to each chapter, but I wanted to toss it out there so it's something you are all considering. Okay, and this is my last slide before we go to the demo. Chapter management. This is the direct link to chapter management if you just want to bookmark that. We also have a chapter management guide if you want to download something and have it as a reference. We also have an entire webinar that is devoted to the technology that is available to chapter leaders, which includes chapter management, CrewBiz, and the Public Crew Network website, which are the three things that I'm going to demo in a little bit. With chapter management, default access is given to the chapter's entire board of directors based on the term dates. And that's another one of those pieces of information. If you give us your board of directors, we can get them entered into the system in the fall, and then bam, on January 1, the new board members have access to chapter management. Outgoing board members lose access on January 1. So it is based specifically on term dates. If additional people need permission or should be given permission to chapter management, shoot us an email. You can send an email to membershipinfo@crewnetwork.org or your chapter admin. The president must authorize these, and then we can give those additional people access to chapter management for that president's term. And then the last bullet here, I wanted to really stress this. We want chapters to use the leadership tab on chapter management to enter and update committee rosters. Committee members are volunteers, so time is very valuable, especially for working professionals. So the fact that they're willing to give up their time, we want to recognize that for them. And we want to keep a record of it. So we have enabled the leadership tab so that chapter leaders can keep track of their committee's rosters right there in chapter management. It feeds the information back into our database, which then shows on that member's CrewBiz profile page. So this is one way that the chapter leader can keep a current roster. They can manage that list themselves, and then it is fed into all the different places where that information needs to reside. If your chapter uses one of the integrated websites, it will populate on the committee pages. And again, it will show on their CrewBiz profile. And then it's also recorded in our database. So even if you don't use the integrated website, you'll be able to ask us. You'll be able to look back and use our database as a historical reference if you need to know, what years did Jane Doe serve on different committees for our chapter. So it's all there. Okay. So I'm going to stop my share and feel like I have been talking nonstop, which I have. Does anyone have any questions before I move on to the demo? Okay, well, I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to go ahead and close the PowerPoint. Okay. And now I think you're all seeing a pretty picture of my family. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm going to start on the Crew Network website, and I want to show you the website first, simply because, oh, this isn't going to work. Let me go back to my other screen. Otherwise, I'm going to be looking away from you the entire time I present. Okay. So the Crew Network website is a public-facing website, and I always try to make sure I make that statement. This is where if a random company wants to learn more about Crew Network, about potentially being a sponsor of Crew Network, about joining Crew Network, this is the same for all of your chapters, they will come to the webpage. They will come here to find out more information about the organization. Because of this, almost all of the member-only benefits are in our CrewBiz community. So this is the public-facing website. General people, non-members can attend our upcoming events. We want them to look at our resources. We want them to read our industry research. We want them to donate. We want non-members to be able to do all of this. Non-members also have an account. And the reason for this is because non-members can attend events. So they will have transactions and they will need to be able to print their receipts. Before someone becomes a member, they are a non-member, and their membership invoice, their initial membership invoice, also lives under transactions. So that is where they would go to pay their membership dues. We also need them to be able to update their contact information. Non-members need to be able to change their password. So that is why all of this is available to members and non-members alike. I want to stay here on the My Account really quick and just show you, we have added some new demographic fields, and I really encourage everyone to log in, complete their demographics. There is an option I prefer not to disclose for all of the required ones. So if you do not want to provide the information, we're not going to force you to, but we are, as the leader in DEI for commercial real estate, we do want to collect as much information about the demographics of our members as we can. So we have added some new fields that we're tracking: sexual orientation and disability, in addition to gender, origin, date of birth, and annual salary. So that is all new. And then chapter management. This is one way that you can access chapter management. All the board members have chapter management as the far right tab. Before I go here though, because we can get lost and spend lots of time in chapter management, I want to show you CrewBiz. So CrewBiz, again, is where all of the member-specific resources live. And from the drop-down, you can see a lot of options here. I'm just going to go to the general CrewBiz community. So this is the home page. This is where you can see the posts. This is our online discussion portal. You can see job listings. And then this is a preview of the resources. So under resources, this is where most of the Crew Network resources are included. You click on Resource Center. There's a folder structure on the left side, and then the folder contents show in the right. So we have a bunch of different categories here. In most of these folders, there is a toolkit and then a chapter and member submissions folder. Toolkit means the contents of that folder are provided by Crew Network. These are all tools that we are providing for your use. Chapter member submissions, these are submitted by chapters or individual members as examples, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So in here, Crew Philadelphia has provided an example of their membership brochure. MinCrew has provided a new member checklist. So if you have some great resources that your chapter has developed, please submit them. You can send them to me. You can submit them yourself through the open forum discussion. You can just include a post and attach it, and we'll put it in the right folder. We love chapters sharing their information and their great ideas. I talked earlier about the webinar that we have. Crew Network, here it is, Chapter Leader Technology and Resources. This is, they say webinar or video if they are videos or webinars. So you can access those. Also under resources, here is that playbooks that I was talking about. So this is the landing page that shows you all the different playbooks. You might have noticed my favorite resources here. If you access a resource, let me just find one. And you see, I've got several membership resources starred here. But if you access a resource and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to use this all the time. If you click this little follow button here, it puts it into your favorite resources. And then you'll have kind of a list of all of your favorite resources, the ones that you come back to again and again. So that's just a little tip for you there. Under communities, I think it's probably easier to do community posts, to find those under participate, so you can browse the discussion posts. CrewBiz has an online community where we can all have discussions, and hopefully all of you receive the daily digest every day. So you can post a new message here. You can search for different topics. If you wanted to, ground lease, you could type that into the search and it would pull up this, this post here. There's a lot of information in these discussion posts. Make sure you read the open forum discussion or daily digest every day. I typically just read the subject lines of everything, and then I click through if I want to read more about whatever that person has posted. There are transactions, people looking for business connections, people looking for ideas or references. So make that a part of your, morning look when you're having your first coffee of the day. Okay, under directories, you'll see the member directory and the speakers directory. Member directory is exactly that. It's the way to search for fellow members based on name, company. We have some minority and women-owned business certifications that you can search by if you're working in a governmental capacity and you need to specifically hire specific minority businesses. Then we have all the specialties, and these are identified back on that My Account page that we showed earlier. You can search for different languages. Membership affiliations, this is the chapter. So if you want just a chapter roster for your own chapter, you can get it here. And then there's lots of different ways you can search for members. Also under directories is a speakers directory. And this is often overlooked, but I want to point this out to you as chapter leaders. Each and every one of you is talented and experienced and knowledgeable in your particular field. So create a speaker's profile for yourself. Encourage your fellow members to create their own profile. Crew Network is often contacted and asked for female speakers on different topics. And this speakers directory is the only part of CrewBiz that can be accessed by a non-member. So it is actually a public directory. Only members can be in the speakers directory. So it's a benefit of membership to be in this directory, but your HR department or other people can also search in here. If you want to know how to update or add a speaker's profile, you just go to your little profile icon up in the top corner. And this will take me to my profile page. And then I have under profile, I can do my profile or my speaker profile. So I can toggle back in case you want to use a different bio in your speaker's profile. So you can just click that and fill out your speaker information. Okay, so that's the quick CrewBiz tour. Renewal support is something that is new this year. Because of the pandemic, I mentioned that we are having a grace period extension. We're offering this to members who are affected by the pandemic. This is access to that form that I referred to. This can actually also be accessed on the Crew Network website. If you go under About and click Renew, there's a support link here. There are, under this membership renewal FAQs, there's a whole bunch of information in here. So if people are having issues renewing, send them here because honestly, the most common issue is use Google Chrome. Don't try to pay your renewal invoice using Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is not going to be supported very much longer by Microsoft. So there are some issues with Internet Explorer. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go back and do a quick 7-minute tour of chapter management. Chris, am I missing any questions?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. Is renewal support only for existing members? Yes, renewal support is only for existing members. Okay, so in chapter management, I have, I'm going to go ahead and select, should have turned off my email. I'm going to go ahead and select our member at large group. You will only see your chapter and Crew Network, but I'm going to use just this general group that includes all of staff and members in India and in other locations where we don't have chapters. So the numbers are going to look very skewed, but I don't want to show chapters information. Under the membership tab, there is a section here that shows current members. So this is the current roster for your chapter. You can access it right here. These are people who have paid 2021 membership dues. These two numbers are included in this number. So new members that have joined since October of 2020 are shown here. Rejoining members, these are paid members whose membership had lapsed at some point in the past. There's definitions for these all up here. All of these points can be clicked on and a pop-up of those members comes up here and you can actually export it to Excel. And there is a lot of information shown. It is not just what's shown there. So this is, all their contact information, their specialties, their qualified field of commercial real estate, all of that is shown once you export it. So that is how you access your chapter's roster.
Hey, Jenny, can I just add one thing?
Yep.
For any of the members who will receive the renewal support and the extra extension, the way to be able to see that is by downloading the export and looking at the status. You won't be able to tell just by that overview glance. You'll actually have to export it and then their status will be changed to extended.
So she's talking about this field here, member status. Instead of saying paid 2021 or past due, it will show extended. Okay. And then one other clarification. A lot of you probably saw your membership numbers go down drastically on January 1. Those individuals, like I said, were in a grace period, so they're still in here. They are shown now under the pending and previous members under have not renewed for this term. So this number here, these are the people that you need to continue to follow up with about renewing their membership. So they all have invoices out there that need to be paid. Open invoices right here. These are people who have been approved for membership by your chapter. That has been communicated to Krista, and she's set them up invoice for their membership dues. As soon as they pay that invoice, they drop off of this list and they go onto this list. Okay. Also on this tab are a whole bunch of different charts and graphs. People who are involved with membership know that there are 2 specific requirements for membership composition for your chapter. At least 75% of the individual members of your chapter must be in a qualified field. And then a majority of the individual members must have at least 5 years of experience in a qualified field. So that's what these charts measure. And all of these charts, if you click on different sections of the pie chart, it will provide you with an export of those numbers. Here is a list, or this is a block chart of qualified fields of commercial real estate. So you can see, not indicated as the biggest on here because Cree Network staff is in here. So don't let that throw you. But you can see where the majority of your members are focused. And the beauty of this is you can reach out to these people if you need, if you want to know what type of program might be most attractive to your chapter. And then down here on this end, these are the industries that you should recruit from. We have added this export capability, and this lists all of the different qualified fields, regardless of whether your chapter has members that belong in those categories or not, and then the percentage of them. And this is really helpful because we can see that these are areas for recruitment. We don't have any members in some of these categories, so those are prime areas for membership recruitment and targeted messaging. Then we have a bunch of other demographics here. We have some historical trends, retention growth. Again, the dots are exportable. Retention growth, obviously those aren't because those are trends. And then down here are diversity demographics. And this is where it shows the cumulative data for those demographic fields that we talked about earlier from my account. None of these are exportable because that's confidential information, except for the not indicated section. So right now the not indicated section of age for members at large is the biggest. So I can export that so that I can reach out to these people who are mostly staff and ask them to complete that information in their profile. Okay. And then on chapter management, there are other tabs that all function kind of the same way. The leadership tab this is where you add committee rosters to different committees. And we actually have a whole section of that instruction in the chapter technology webinar. So I'm going to pause here because we are now at time and just see if there are any additional questions before we close, or if there's anything that anyone would like me to demo that I have not. All right. Well, I'm going to go get a glass of water because I feel like I've spoken nonstop. Thank you all for joining us today. Please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from our members. So thank you for all that you do for Crew. Right. Bye-bye.